The waiting line stretched across half a solar system. Ships of every shape and size floated in perfect formation, each one more beautiful than the last. The Threxian vessel looked like a flower made of crystal and gold. The Pavnathi ship gleamed with purple light that pulsed like a heartbeat. The Shard Collective had sent a vessel that looked like a floating cathedral made entirely of singing glass. This was the line for the Galactic Council Summit of Peace. It happened once every 100 years. Every major species in the galaxy sent their most beautiful diplomatic ships to attend. It was the most important peaceful gathering in known space. Security Director Zixathera watched the monitors from her command station. She had 6 arms, each one working a different control panel. Her species, the Velcrin, had been running council security for 3 centuries. Nothing surprised her anymore. Or so she thought. Director, her assistant called out. We have a new ship entering the queue. Identify it, Zixathera said without looking up. Ships had been arriving all week. It's transmitting human credentials. That made Zixathera look up. The humans were new to the galactic community. They had only made first contact 15 years ago. This was their first time being invited to the summit. The council wanted to see if they were ready to join civilized space. Good, Zixathera said. What does their diplomatic vessel look like? Her assistant's skin turned pale blue. That was a fear response. Director, it's not a diplomatic vessel. It's a warship. A big one. Every alarm in Zixathera's head went off at once. She pulled up the scan on her main screen. Her blood went cold. The ship was massive. It was 3 times the size of any diplomatic vessel in the queue. Its hull was dark gray, covered in armor plating. Weapon ports lined its sides like teeth in a shark's mouth. Rail cannons. Missile batteries. Energy weapons she couldn't even identify. The name was printed on the side in bold white letters, UHSV Indomitable. Get me the council chair. Now, Zixathera said. Within minutes, her screen filled with faces. Council members from dozens of species appeared, all talking at once. Chair Mordesh, a being of pure energy wearing diplomatic robes, called for silence. What is the meaning of this? Mordesh's voice boomed. Why is there a human warship in the diplomatic queue? I don't know, Zixathera admitted. But it gets worse. I'm reading their power signatures. Weapons are hot. Reactors at 70%. That ship is ready for combat. The screen exploded with panic. The Pavnathi ambassador started screeching. The Threxian representative demanded military escorts. Even the calm archivist's floating brains in jars bubbled with concern. This is an act of war, someone shouted. The humans are showing their true nature, another voice cried. Chair Mordesh raised glowing hands for silence. Has the vessel made any threatening moves? Zixathera checked her sensors. No, they're just waiting in line. They transmitted diplomatic credentials and took their place in the queue. They're following all protocols perfectly. Hail them, Mordesh commanded. I want to know what they think they're doing. Zixathera opened a channel. Human vessel Indomitable, this is Galactic Council security. Please state your intentions. There was a brief pause. Then a human woman's voice came through, sounding almost bored. This is UHSV Indomitable, Captain Samantha Rodriguez commanding. We're here for the summit. Filed our credentials 3 months ago. Just waiting our turn like everyone else. The calm response somehow made it worse. Zixathera looked at Mordesh, who looked as confused as energy beings could look. Captain Rodriguez, Mordesh said. You are aware this is a peace summit? Yes, sir. And you brought a warship? Yes, sir. Is there a problem? Half the council members started talking at once again. Zixathera had to mute several of them. We will discuss this internally, Mordesh said carefully. Please stand by. The channel closed. Immediately the council erupted into argument. They're planning an attack, the Pavnathi ambassador insisted. Why else bring a warship? Perhaps it's a cultural thing? Suggested one of the archivists. We should research human customs before. There's no custom that explains bringing weapons of war to a peace conference. The Threxian representative interrupted. Zixathera pulled up everything Council intelligence had on the humans. The file was smaller than she expected, but deeply concerning. Humans had ended their first interstellar war in 3 months. 3 months. Most wars lasted decades. They treated gravity like a suggestion. Their ships could pull maneuvers that would turn most species into paste. The Indomitable had its own file. It had survived something called the Battle of Proxima Rift, where it held off an entire enemy fleet alone. For 6 hours, against impossible odds. The ship should have been destroyed in the first 10 minutes. Instead, it was still here, floating in the diplomatic queue like this was normal. Captain Rodriguez's file was even more interesting. 42 years old. 20 years of military service. Decorated for bravery 16 times. Not a single mark on her record for aggression or disobeying orders. Everyone who served under her was loyal to the point of fanaticism. Enemy species respected her even while fighting her. The file also noted that she had never lost a crew member unnecessarily. Every military action she took was calculated to minimize casualties on both sides. She was known for accepting enemy surrenders instantly and treating prisoners well. That didn't match with someone planning an attack, but it also didn't explain why she'd bring a warship to a peace summit. Director, her assistant said quietly, the other ships in the queue are repositioning. Sixth Era pulled up the tactical display. Her assistant was right. Every ship within 500 kilometers of the Indomitable was slowly moving away. The Threxian vessel had activated its shields. The Quillian ship was pre-spinning its faster-than-light drives, ready to run at the first sign of trouble. The humans just floated there, waiting patiently. We need to make a decision, Mordesh said. We either let them in or we don't. What does intelligence say? Zixathara pulled up her report. The humans are confusing. They're extremely good at war. Frighteningly good. But they don't start wars. They end them. Usually fast. Every conflict they've been in was either defensive or to protect civilian populations. So they're not conquerors. Someone asked, I don't think so, but they're definitely warriors. And right now they have a warrior ship at our peaceful gathering. The Pavnathi ambassador made an angry sound. I refuse to attend a summit with that ship present. My people still remember what human weapons did to our fleet. Your fleet attacked a human colony, the archivist noted calmly. The historical record is clear. That's not the point. The point is they brought overwhelming force to a diplomatic event. Mordesh dimmed with thought. Perhaps that is exactly the point. Perhaps they're sending a message. But what message? Nobody had an answer. The Council had dealt with aggressive species before. They had protocols for threats and ultimatums. But the humans weren't threatening anyone. They weren't demanding anything. They were just there, waiting politely with enough firepower to level a planet. Run a deep scan of their ship, Mordesh ordered. I want to know everything. Crew complement. Weapon status. What they ate for breakfast, everything. Zixthera hesitated. That's technically a violation of diplomatic protocols. If they detect it, do it anyway. I need to know if we're in danger. The deep scan took 3 minutes. The results made Zixthera's 6 hearts skip beats. Crew of 800, she read aloud. All at their stations. 300 are combat marines. Weapons are powered but not targeted. Shields are at standby. Point defense systems are active. Reactors can go to full power in 90 seconds. They're ready for a fight, someone whispered. But they're not starting one, Zixthera added. This is a defensive posture, not an aggressive one. They're ready to respond to threats, not create them. What's the difference? The Pavnathi ambassador demanded. Zixthera looked at the ship on her screen. It hung in space like a sleeping predator. Beautiful in its own terrifying way. The difference, she said slowly, is that aggressive ships hunt. Defensive ships wait. That ship is waiting, but for what? Mordesh asked. Nobody answered. The human warship just floated there in the diplomatic queue, patient and deadly like a sword at a wedding, present but not drawn, ready but not striking, and that somehow was the most frightening thing of all. The Council Intelligence Division worked through the night. Their assignment was simple but terrifying. Figure out what the humans were planning. Chief Analyst Krivan had never been so stressed in his long life. He was a Methodian, a species known for calm logical thinking. But there was nothing calm about the data in front of him. Show me everything we have on human military operations, he told his team. The files appeared on screens all around him. There weren't many. Humans had only been in space for 15 years. But every single military action was documented in disturbing detail. The first file was the Kessler Station incident. A mining station on the human frontier. The Pavnathi had claimed it was in their territory and attacked without warning. 3 human civilians died in the first strike. The human response was fast and brutal. 2 human destroyers arrived within hours. The Pavnathi fleet was 10 times their size. The battle should have lasted days. It lasted 47 minutes. The human ships moved like nothing Krivon had ever seen. They used the gravity of nearby planets like slingshots. They fired weapons while doing turns that should have killed everyone on board. They targeted the Pavnathi command ship first, cutting off communications. Then they destroyed engines, not reactors. They disabled ships instead of destroying them. When the Pavnathi admiral tried to surrender, the humans accepted immediately. They even provided medical aid to the damaged Pavnathi vessels. Efficient, Krivon muttered. Frighteningly efficient. The next file was worse. The Battle of Proxima Rift. The Krell invasion fleet had tried to conquer a cluster of human colonies. 200 Krell warships against 12 human vessels. The humans knew they couldn't win, so they didn't try to. Instead, they evacuated the civilians. The indomitable Captain Rodriguez's ship stayed behind alone. Its job was simple: buy time. Hold off 200 warships long enough for the evacuation to finish. Military analysts said it was impossible. The Indomitable should have been destroyed in minutes. Captain Rodriguez had other ideas. She used the asteroid field. She used debris from destroyed ships. She sent fake signals to confuse enemy sensors. She made the Krell think there were more human ships than there really were. For 6 hours, she made 200 warships chase shadows while the real ship kept moving, kept fighting, kept surviving. By the time the Krell figured out the trick, the civilians were safe. The Indomitable was damaged but still fighting. When human reinforcements arrived, the Krell retreated. They'd lost 30 ships trying to catch one vessel. Captain Rodriguez was offered medals. She turned them down. She said she was just doing her job. Krivon pulled up more files. The pattern was clear. Humans didn't start wars, but when wars came to them, they ended them fast. They fought smart, not just hard. They valued their own lives and even enemy lives. But they absolutely refused to lose. What are we dealing with? One of Krivon's assistants asked. A species that understands war too well, Krivon said quietly. They don't fight for glory or territory. They fight to protect what's theirs, and they're very, very good at it. So what do they want at the summit? That was the question that kept Krivon up at night. He pulled up the communication logs. The humans had filed their diplomatic credentials exactly as instructed. They'd followed every rule. They'd been nothing but polite, but they'd sent a warship. Krivon opened the file on Ambassador Lyra Chen. She was the human diplomatic representative. 73 years old, she'd been a university professor before becoming an ambassador. Her specialty was conflict resolution. Her record showed successful negotiations in 17 different disputes. She had a reputation for being kind but firm. The file also noted that she never negotiated from weakness. She always made sure her side had options, power, leverage, and right now her leverage was the Indomitable. They're not here to attack, Krivon said suddenly. They're here to make a point. What point? That they can't be ignored. That they can't be pushed around. That if they're joining the Galactic community, they're joining as equals. His assistant looked doubtful. That's a very aggressive way to make that point. Maybe, Krivon said. Or maybe that's just how humans think. He pulled up a human cultural file. It was thin. Most of it was guesswork and observations from brief contacts. But one section caught his eye. It was about human history. Humans had spent their entire existence fighting each other. Wars on their home planet were constant. They'd developed weapons that could destroy their whole world several times over. They'd come close to using them, but they hadn't. Instead, they'd learned something. The file called it peace through strength. The idea was simple. If everyone had weapons, everyone would be too afraid to fight. Make war so terrible that nobody wants it. It had almost destroyed them. But eventually it worked. When humans finally united and went to space, they brought that philosophy with them. They make weapons to prevent war, Krivon said slowly. They show strength to avoid having to use it. That's insane, his assistant said. That's human, Krivon corrected. Back at the council station, the tension was rising. More ships were arriving for the summit. Each one noticed the human warship in the queue. Each one sent panicked messages to council security. Zixathera was fielding complaints from 24 species. The Quillian Harmony wanted the humans removed. The Methodians suggested quarantine protocols. The Shard Collective was debating whether to leave entirely. Only one species wasn't complaining. The archivists, the floating brains who studied everything, were fascinated. This is remarkable, their spokesperson said. We're witnessing a first contact moment. Not of bodies, but of philosophies. This isn't helpful, Zixthara snapped. She was tired and stressed, isn't it? The archivist replied. Consider we invited the humans to send their finest vessel. They sent a warship. What does that tell us? That they're planning something. Or that to them, a warship is their finest achievement. Think about what that means. We build beautiful diplomatic vessels to show our commitment to peace. They build powerful warships for the same reason. Zixthara stopped. That was an interesting thought. You're saying they see that ship as a peace offering? I'm saying they might see it as their greatest accomplishment. And perhaps it is. Look at its record. How many lives has that vessel saved? How many colonies has it defended? How many wars has it ended? Zixthara pulled up the Indomitable's service history. 17 major engagements. 0 civilian casualties on the human side. Minimal casualties on enemy sides. 3 humanitarian missions. 1 first contact gone wrong that the Indomitable defused without firing a shot. It's a guardian ship, the archivist continued. They didn't send a predator to our summit. They sent a protector. A protector with enough weapons to level a planet, Zixthara pointed out. Yes, because to them, protection and power are the same thing. You can't protect what you can't defend. You can't defend without power. Zixthara considered this. It made a strange kind of sense. Humans had evolved on a dangerous world. They'd fought for everything they had. Of course, they'd think protection required strength, but that didn't make the other species feel safer. Sir, one of her assistants interrupted. We're getting more readings from the Indomitable. What kind of readings? Nothing threatening. It's just they're running normal ship operations. The crew is eating meals, sleeping in shifts. Someone's playing music in one of the rec rooms. They're acting like this is completely normal. Zixthara pulled up the internal scans. Her assistant was right. The humans were just living, going about their daily routines. One officer was doing a crossword puzzle. Another was working out in the gym. Captain Rodriguez was in her quarters reading a book. They weren't preparing for battle. They were waiting, patiently, like they had all the time in the world. They really don't think they're doing anything wrong, Zixthara said with wonder. No, the archivist agreed. To them this is normal. Expected even. They were invited to a summit. They sent what they consider their best representative. That it happens to be a warship is irrelevant to them. Chair Mordesh appeared on Zixthara's screen. Report. Zixthara took a breath. I don't think they're here to attack. I think this is a cultural misunderstanding. A big one. Explain. She shared Krivon's files and the archivist's theory. Mordesh listened in silence. So you're saying they think bringing a warship is appropriate? Mordesh asked. I'm saying they might not see it as a warship. They might see it as their greatest achievement. Their finest vessel, which is exactly what we asked for. Mordesh dimmed with thought. Then we need to talk to them. Really talk to them. Not security protocols. Not formal hails. We need to understand what they think they're doing here. And if we don't like the answer, then, Mordesh said grimly, we'll have to decide if we're ready to tell a species with that ship that they're not welcome in our community. Nobody wanted to be the one to deliver that message. 8 hours had passed since the Indomitable arrived. The council had debated, argued, and analyzed. Now it was time for action. Chair Mordesh floated in the center of the council chamber. Around them, holographic representatives of every major species watched with nervous attention. This broadcast would go out on all channels. Every ship in the queue would see it. The whole galaxy would hear what happened next. Open a channel to the human vessel, Mordesh commanded. All frequencies. I want everyone to witness this. The screen lit up. Captain Rodriguez appeared, still in her dress uniform. She looked calm, almost relaxed. That somehow made Mordesh more nervous. Captain Rodriguez, Mordesh began, their energy field pulsing with authority. We have deliberated on your presence here. Your choice to bring a warship to this summit of peace is unprecedented. It is unwelcome. It violates the spirit of this gathering. Rodriguez raised one eyebrow slightly. Does it violate any actual rules? The question caught Mordesh off guard. What? The rules. The regulations you sent us. Did we break any of them? Zixthara quickly checked the diplomatic protocols. She hated to admit it, but no. The humans had followed every rule perfectly. They'd filed the right paperwork, used the right codes, waited in the right place. That's not the point, Mordesh said. The point is, with respect, sir, I think that is the point, Rodriguez interrupted. Her voice was polite but firm. You invited us. We accepted. We followed your protocols. If there was something else you wanted, you should have specified it. The Pavnathi ambassador couldn't contain himself any longer. You brought a warship to a peace summit. How is that appropriate? Rodriguez turned to look at the Pavnathi. Her expression didn't change, but something cold entered her eyes. Ambassador, the last time we met, your fleet fired on a civilian mining station. Without warning, without provocation, 3 of my people died, including a 6-year-old girl. The Pavnathi's feathers flattened. That was a mistake. A local commander. A mistake, Rodriguez said flatly. I see. So when your species makes mistakes, they're understandable. But when my species takes reasonable precautions, we're the threat. Interesting double standard. That's not what Captain Rodriguez, Mordesh interrupted, trying to regain control. Let us focus. You are in a ship built for war. This is a gathering built for peace. Surely you can see the contradiction. For the first time, Rodriguez looked genuinely confused. No, sir. I honestly don't see a contradiction. Silence fell across the channel. Every species waited to hear what the human would say next. Rodriguez looked off-screen for a moment as if checking with someone. Then she sighed. Okay, I think we need to have a different conversation. Let me bring in Ambassador Chen. She's better at explaining things than I am. The screen split. An elderly human woman appeared next to Rodriguez. She was small with white hair and wrinkles around her eyes. She looked like someone's kind grandmother. She wore formal diplomatic robes that seemed too big for her. Chair Mordesh, she said with a warm smile. Council members, thank you for your patience. I believe we have a cultural misunderstanding here. May I ask a question? Mordesh was thrown off balance by her gentle tone. Of course. When you sent the invitation, you said to send our finest vessel. What did you mean by that? Our finest diplomatic vessel, Mordesh clarified. A ship that represents peaceful intentions. I see, Chen said. And what does such a ship look like? The Threxian representative spoke up. Beautiful, ornate, lightly armed or not armed at all. A ship that shows trust in the peaceful nature of the gathering. Chen nodded slowly. So a ship that represents hope, trust, the belief that everyone here wants peace. Exactly, several council members said together. That's lovely, Chen said sincerely. It really is. And I can see how our choice confused you, but you see humans define finest vessel differently. Captain Rodriguez, would you like to explain? Rodriguez cleared her throat. The Indomitable is our finest vessel because of what it represents. This ship has saved 4 million lives. It's evacuated colonies during disasters, delivered medical supplies through war zones, protected civilian ships from pirates, and yes, fought when necessary, but always to protect innocence. This ship, Chen added softly, is the embodiment of humanity's greatest strength, not the weapons, not the armor. The commitment to protect those who cannot protect themselves, the willingness to stand between danger and innocence. The Quillian ambassador made a confused sound. But it's still a weapon. Yes, Chen agreed. It is because protection requires power. You cannot defend what you cannot fight for. You cannot keep peace if you cannot enforce peace. So you're admitting you came here to threaten us? The Pavnathi ambassador demanded. No, Rodriguez said sharply. We came here to show you who we are. This ship represents human values. We value peace, but we also value the strength to maintain that peace. We don't separate the two concepts. They're connected. Chen leaned forward slightly. Let me tell you a story. 300 years ago on Earth, humanity built weapons that could destroy our entire planet. We came very close to using them. Everyone was afraid. Everyone had weapons. Everyone thought that would keep them safe. And did it? The archivist asked, genuinely interested. Eventually, Chen said, after we almost destroyed ourselves, we learned something important. Peace doesn't come from weakness. It doesn't come from hoping everyone will be nice. It comes from everyone being strong enough that war becomes pointless. That's a violent philosophy, Mordesh said quietly. Is it? Chen asked. Or is it realistic? Look at your own history, Chair. How many species joined the Council after being conquered? How many joined because they were weak and needed protection? And how many joined because they were strong enough to be respected? Mordesh didn't answer. They didn't need to. Everyone knew the answer, Chen continued. The Indomitable is here because she represents everything humanity has learned about peace. We tried peace through weakness. We tried peace through isolation. We tried peace through surrender. None of it worked. What worked was being strong enough that others thought twice about fighting us, and kind enough that others wanted to work with us instead. You're saying might makes right, someone accused. No, Rodriguez cut in. I'm saying might makes possible. The Indomitable has the power to destroy entire fleets. We've proven that. But we use that power to protect, not conquer, to defend, not attack. The ship isn't here to threaten you. It's here to show you that humanity chooses peace even when we have the power to choose war. The council chamber erupted. Half the members were outraged. The other half were thoughtful. Mordesh called for order. This is still highly unusual, Mordesh said. You must understand our concerns. Many species here have been victims of aggressive warships. They see your vessel and they fear. Chen's face softened with sympathy. I understand. Fear is reasonable. But let me ask you this. In the 15 years since humanity joined the galactic community, have we started any wars? Zixthera checked the records. No. Have we conquered any territory? No. Have we broken any treaties or violated any agreements? No, Zixthera admitted. Chen spread her hands. Then judge us by our actions, not by your fears. Yes, we brought a warship, but we've been invited to 12 conflicts as mercenaries or allies. Do you know how many we accepted? 3, Krivan said from his analysis station. He'd been listening carefully. Only 3. All cases involving the defense of civilian populations. Correct, Chen said. We turned down 9 highly profitable war contracts because we didn't agree with the cause. We only fight for protection, for justice, for the right reasons. How convenient that you get to decide what the right reasons are, the Pavnathi ambassador said bitterly. Rodriguez's jaw tightened. You're right. It is convenient. It's also honest. We make no secret of our values. We don't hide what we are. That ship outside your station? That's us. Powerful, yes. Dangerous, absolutely. But aimed at protecting, not destroying. Unless someone threatens you, Mordesh pointed out. Unless someone threatens innocence, Rodriguez corrected. There's a difference. We don't fight for ourselves. We fight for those who can't fight for themselves, Chen added quietly. The Indomitable has one rule that every crew member knows by heart. It's painted in the main corridor. Would you like to know what it says? The council waited. Peace is not the absence of power. It is the choice not to use it. The words hung in the air. Nobody spoke for a long moment. Finally, one of the archivists broke the silence. Fascinating. You've built a philosophy where strength and peace are not opposites but partners, where the capacity for violence becomes the guarantee of peace. Exactly, Chen said, looking relieved that someone understood. It's still frightening, Mordesh admitted. You're essentially saying you could conquer us all if you wanted to. Could we? Rodriguez asked. Maybe, maybe not. But we don't want to. That's the point. We have the power. We choose peace. Every single day we make that choice. And we're supposed to trust that you'll keep making that choice? The Quillian ambassador asked. Yes, Chen said simply. Because trust is what peace requires. You're asking us to trust that you won't attack us. We're asking the same of you. The difference is, we brought our sword to the table so you can see it. So you know exactly what you're getting with humanity. No surprises. No hidden weapons. This is who we are. Mordesh's energy field flickered. The council went into private session. No cameras. No recordings. Just the core members trying to make sense of what they'd just heard. They're either brilliant or insane, the Threxian representative said. I can't decide which. Perhaps both, the archivist suggested. Human history shows a species that survived by being clever and aggressive in equal measure. Zixthera pulled up more data on her screens. She'd been digging deeper into human culture while the conversation happened. What she found was disturbing and enlightening at the same time. Look at this, she said, sharing the files. Human art, their stories. Their entertainment, images filled the screens. Humans in armor protecting others. Humans fighting monsters. Humans standing between danger and innocence. Over and over, the same theme. Their heroes aren't conquerors, Zixthera explained. They're protectors. Warriors, yes, but warriors who fight for others. Look at these old Earth stories. Knights protecting villages. Soldiers defending homes, superheroes saving cities. The pattern is clear. So they've been raised on stories of noble warriors, Mordesh said. That explains the philosophy, but not why they brought a warship here. Krivan spoke up from his analysis station. Actually, it does. If their entire culture celebrates protective warriors, then their finest military vessel would be the ultimate symbol of that ideal. To them, the Indomitable isn't a weapon. It's a guardian, a protector, the physical embodiment of their highest values. The Pavnathi ambassador made an angry sound. That's just words. That ship can still destroy planets. But it doesn't, the archivist pointed out. That's what they're trying to tell us. The power exists. The choice not to use it is what matters. I still don't trust them, the Pavnathi said. Nobody's asking you to trust them yet, Mordesh replied. We're asking if we understand them. And I'm starting to think we didn't. Not at all. Another file popped up on Zixthera's screen. Here's something interesting. Human negotiations. I've been reviewing every diplomatic interaction they've had. There's a pattern, she showed the data. In every negotiation, humans came prepared. They brought information. They brought options. They brought power. But they also listened. They compromised when it made sense. They gave ground on small things to gain ground on big things. They're good negotiators, the Quillian ambassador admitted grudgingly. Better than we expected for such a young species. Because they separate power from action, Krivan explained. Look at this case. The Methodian trade dispute. Humans had legal grounds to seize Methodian cargo ships. They had the military power to do it. But they didn't. Instead, they negotiated. They found a solution that benefited both sides. They had the power but chose not to use it, Mordesh said slowly. Exactly. That's their whole philosophy. Have the power, choose not to use it. Make that choice visible so everyone knows it's a choice, not weakness. Zixthera pulled up another file. Here's a report from the Shard Collective. They did an analysis of human military doctrine. The conclusion was unexpected. She read aloud. Human forces are trained to de-escalate whenever possible. Use of lethal force is a last resort, not a first option. Crew members are evaluated not just on combat performance but on decisions made under pressure. Officers who solve problems without violence are promoted faster than those who use force unnecessarily. They train their warriors to avoid war, the archivist said with wonder. That's remarkable. That's contradictory, the Pavnathi ambassador insisted. Is it? Mordesh asked. Or is it the natural conclusion of a species that understands war too well? A communication request came through. It was Ambassador Chen asking to speak with the council again. Mordesh accepted. Chen appeared on screen, still looking like a kind grandmother. Chair Mordesh, council members, thank you for your time. I know this is confusing. I wonder if I might help by sharing something personal. Please, Mordesh said. Chen settled into her chair. I'm 73 years old. I was born during what we call the Unification Wars, the last major conflicts on Earth before we went to space. I was 6 years old when my city was attacked. I remember hiding in a basement while buildings exploded above us. She paused, her eyes distant with memory. A soldier found us. I was terrified. He was in full armor, carrying weapons bigger than I was. I thought he was going to kill us. Instead, he picked me up, wrapped me in his jacket, and carried me to safety. He got shot doing it. Took 3 bullets meant for me. Nobody interrupted. His name was Marcus Chen. He became my father. Adopted me after my birth parents died in the attack. He taught me something important. He said power isn't about what you can destroy. It's about what you can protect. He said the purpose of being strong is so others don't have to be afraid. Chen's voice grew stronger. That's what the Indomitable represents. That's what every human warship represents. Yes, we built them to fight. But we built them so fewer people would have to fight. So civilians could sleep safely. So children could grow up without fear. Your father sounds like a good man, Mordesh said quietly. He was. And he wasn't unique. That's what I'm trying to explain. Human military culture is built around protection. Our warriors are taught that their purpose is to make war unnecessary, to be so strong that others choose peace, to be so capable that others don't have to be. Rodriguez appeared on screen next to Chen. My crew knows that we carry enough firepower to destroy fleets. They also know that using that firepower is failure, not success. Our mission isn't to fight. It's to make fighting unnecessary. When the Indomitable enters a system, pirates run, slavers hide. Aggressive species think twice, not because we attack them, but because they know we could. Deterrence, Krivon said. Your entire military philosophy is based on deterrence. Exactly, Rodriguez confirmed. We'd rather be feared and never fight than be underestimated and have to prove ourselves. Every battle we fight is a failure of deterrence. We prefer to win without fighting. The archivist bubbled with excitement. This is consistent with ancient Earth philosophy. I'm accessing human historical texts. A strategist named Sun Tzu wrote, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." You've built a military culture around this principle. We've tried everything else, Chen said sadly. Pacifism, appeasement, isolation. None of it worked when facing true aggression. The only thing that worked was being strong enough that aggressors chose to leave us alone. Not because they loved us, but because they feared the cost of fighting us. And you brought that philosophy here, Mordesh said, to our peaceful summit. Yes, Chen confirmed, because you need to understand who humans are. We're not a species that makes empty promises. When we say we want peace, we mean it. But we're also not a species that will be victims. We'll defend ourselves and our allies with everything we have. Rodriguez added, the Indomitable is here because she's the truth about humanity. We're powerful. We're capable of terrible destruction. But we choose every day to be builders instead of destroyers, protectors instead of predators. The ship shows you both sides of that coin. Some species will see that as a threat, the Quillian ambassador said. Yes, Chen agreed. They will. And honestly, if a species sees the Indomitable and thinks I'd better not attack humans, then the ship has done its job. But if a species sees the Indomitable and thinks humanity would be a good ally, that's even better. You want us to fear you and respect you at the same time, the Pavnathi ambassador said. No, Rodriguez corrected. We want you to respect us because you understand what we're capable of, but also understand that we won't use it against you unless you give us no choice. Fear fades. Understanding lasts. Mordesh was silent for a long time. Then they asked the question everyone was thinking. What happens if we say no? If we decide the Indomitable cannot attend the summit? Chen and Rodriguez exchanged glances. Rodriguez answered first. Then we'll leave peacefully, file a formal complaint, request clarification on exactly what rules we broke, push for more specific protocols next time. We won't make a scene. We won't threaten anyone. We'll just go. And then, Mordesh pressed, Chen took over. And then humanity will have to decide what your rejection means. Are we not civilized enough for you? Not peaceful enough? Not the right kind of species? We'll have to evaluate what council membership means and whether we want to be part of a community that rejects us for being honest about what we are. You'd leave the council? Zixthera asked, shocked. We'd consider our options, Chen said carefully. We want to be part of the Galactic community, but not at the cost of pretending to be something we're not. If the council requires members to hide their strength, to pretend they're harmless, to fit a specific mold of what peace looks like, that's not a community we can be honest members of. Rodriguez leaned forward. Here's what I think you need to understand. Humanity has enemies. Species that would love to conquer human space, take human resources, enslave human populations. The only reason they don't is because of ships like the Indomitable. If we hide our military, if we pretend to be weak, if we send pretty diplomatic vessels with no teeth, those enemies will see that as an invitation. And then there will be war, Chen concluded. Real war. Not threats. Not deterrence. Actual fighting, which is exactly what Eva... The vote was scheduled for dawn station time. Every council member would cast their decision, allow the Indomitable to attend the summit or reject the human presence. Zixthara hadn't slept. She'd spent the night reviewing everything. Human history, human culture, human military actions. The picture that emerged was complicated. Humans were warriors. That was undeniable. But they were warriors who valued peace. Soldiers who hoped never to fight. People who built terrible weapons and then did everything possible not to use them. It didn't make sense by any traditional logic. But it made sense if you understood where humans came from. Director, her assistant called. The voting is about to begin. Zixthera made her way to the council chamber. It was full. Every species had sent representatives. Even those not officially on the council wanted to witness this moment. Chair Mordesh floated at the center. Their energy field was calm now. Decided. We have debated, Mordesh began. We have analyzed. We have spoken with the humans at length. Now we must choose. Do we accept humanity as they are, with their warship and their philosophy? Or do we reject them and ask them to return when they are ready to meet our expectations? I want to speak before the vote, the archivist requested. Mordesh nodded permission. The floating brain pulsed with thought. I have studied 3,000 species over my lifetime. I have watched civilizations rise and fall. I have seen every variation of military philosophy, diplomatic approach, and cultural value. The humans are unique, but not in the way we first thought. The archivist displayed data. Every peaceful species in this council reached peace through one of three paths. First path, evolution beyond violence. Species that naturally grew past the need for conflict. Second path, exhaustion. Species that fought until they had nothing left and chose peace from weakness. Third path, protection. Species that were conquered or protected by others and adopted peace as a condition of survival. Images of various species and their histories filled the screens. Humans are attempting a fourth path. Peace through deterrence. Peace through strength. They are trying to maintain peace not by ending their capacity for violence, but by perfecting it to the point where violence becomes unnecessary. That's insane, the Pavnathi ambassador muttered. Perhaps, the archivist agreed. But it's also honest. They're not pretending to be something they're not. They're showing us exactly what they are and asking us to accept it. Krivan stood. I've completed my analysis. The humans are correct about one thing. Their military actions have been defensive or protective. Every war they've fought was against aggressors. Every battle they've won was followed by fair terms. They're warriors, yes, but they're not conquerors. The Shard Collective spoke next, their crystalline forms chiming in harmony. We calculate low probability of human aggression. High probability of human alliance value. Species shows strong loyalty to friends. Strong retaliation against enemies. Pattern suggests valuable but demanding ally. Mordesh looked around the chamber. Others wish to speak? The Quillian ambassador rose slowly. I came here prepared to vote no. The indomitable frightens me. Human military capacity frightens me. But I've been thinking about Ambassador Chen's words. About being honest. The humans could have sent a small diplomatic ship. They could have hidden their military capacity. They could have pretended to be harmless until we trusted them. The Quillian paused. They didn't. They showed us their sword. They let us see exactly what they're capable of. That's either foolish or honest. I'm starting to think it's honest. They could still use that sword against us, the Pavnathi ambassador argued. They could, the Quillian agreed. But so could we. Every species here has weapons. Military forces. The capacity for violence. We just hide it behind pretty words and diplomatic vessels. Maybe the humans are right. Maybe it's better to be honest about what we are. Zixthera stepped forward. I've been security director for 40 years. I've seen every type of threat. Aggressive species. Deceptive species. Species that smile while preparing to stab you in the back. She looked at the display showing the indomitable. The humans aren't that. They're something else. Something we don't have a category for. They're dangerous but not aggressive. Powerful but not expansionist. Capable of war but preferring peace. That doesn't mean we should trust them, someone objected. No, Zixthera agreed. But it means we should work with them. Because a species like that, either they're going to be our greatest ally or our worst enemy. And I'd rather make sure they're the first. Mordesh dimmed with thought. The Pavnathi ambassador has not spoken. You have strong feelings about the humans. The Pavnathi was quiet for a long moment. His feathers were flat against his body. Yes, strong feelings. My people died at Kessler Station. Human weapons killed them. I will never forget that. So you vote no? Mordesh asked. The Pavnathi struggled. I want to, but I've been reviewing the battle records. Our fleet fired first. Our admiral refused to communicate. Our ships wouldn't surrender until half our force was destroyed. The humans could have killed everyone. They chose not to. He looked up at Mordesh. I hate that I'm saying this, but the humans fought fairly. They gave us chances to surrender. They provided medical aid afterward. They didn't execute our admiral when they could have. By the rules of war, they were honorable. So you vote yes? I vote acceptance, not trust. Not friendship. But acceptance that this is who humans are and we must deal with that reality. Mordesh's energy field brightened. Then let us vote. all in favor of accepting human participation in the summit, with the Indomitable as their representative vessel? Hands raised. Lights flashed. Votes were counted. The result was close. But it was clear. The vote passes, Mordesh announced. Humanity is accepted. The Indomitable will be permitted to attend the summit. Sixth Era opened a channel to the human ship. Captain Rodriguez appeared on screen. Captain Rodriguez, Ambassador Chen, the Council has voted. You have permission to dock and attend the summit. Welcome to the Galactic community. Rodriguez's stern face broke into a smile. It was the first time any of them had seen her smile. She looked younger, more human. Thank you, Chair, we won't disappoint you. See that you don't, Mordesh said, but there was warmth in the words. And Captain? Next time, perhaps include an explanation with your credentials. It would save everyone a lot of stress, Rodriguez laughed. Understood. We'll add a note. This is a warship. That's okay. Here's why. That would be helpful, Mordesh said dryly. The channel closed. Across the council station, species watched as the Indomitable moved from the waiting queue to the diplomatic docking ring. It looked wrong there among the beautiful, delicate diplomatic vessels. Like a wolf among sheep. But as it docked, something changed in how people looked at it. It wasn't a predator. It was a guard dog. Powerful and dangerous, yes, but aimed outward. Protecting, not threatening. Other ships began docking. The summit would proceed. But everyone knew something had changed. The galaxy had just accepted a new type of species into the community. A species that brought swords to peace talks. A species that saw no contradiction between strength and peace. Over the next week, the summit proceeded. Rodriguez and Chen attended every session. The humans listened more than they spoke. They asked questions. They proposed solutions. They worked with other species instead of demanding their way. And every night, the delegates returned to their ships. They passed by the Indomitable on the way. Some still felt fear when they saw it. Others felt curiosity. But slowly, a new feeling emerged. Safety. There were dangerous species in the galaxy. Pirates, raiders, aggressive empires waiting for chances to expand. Having the Indomitable at the summit meant those threats thought twice about attacking. The warship was a deterrent not just for humans, but for everyone. On the final day, a crisis emerged. A distress call from a nearby system. Pirates were attacking a civilian convoy. 3 ships full of refugees. The council debated sending a response. It would take hours to organize. The refugees might be dead by then. Rodriguez stood. The Indomitable can be there in 20 minutes. The room went quiet. This was the test. The moment when humans would show their true nature. Would they help? Would they demand payment? Would they use this as leverage for political gain? Go, Mordesh said simply. Save them. Rodriguez nodded and left the chamber. 10 minutes later, the Indomitable undocked. Its engines flared. It jumped to faster than light speed. 23 minutes later, Rodriguez's voice came over the comm. Pirates have fled. Refugees are secure. No casualties. Indomitable returning to station. No demands. No request for payment. No political conditions. Just the job, done quickly and efficiently. When the Indomitable docked again, something had changed in how the other species looked at it. Fear was gone. In its place was something like respect, maybe even gratitude. At the closing ceremony, Mordesh addressed everyone. This summit has taught us many things, but perhaps the most important is this. Peace has many forms. Some species maintain peace through kindness, others through isolation, others through careful diplomacy, and some, like humanity, maintain peace through strength. Mordesh looked at Rodriguez and Chen. We are learning that there is no single path to peace. Every species must find their own way. The humans have found theirs. The alarm screamed through the bridge of the UESS Kepler, shattering the quiet of routine patrol. Captain Elena Vasquez jerked upright in her command chair, coffee sloshing over the rim of her cup. Report, she barked. Lieutenant Park's fingers flew across his console, his face pale in the blue glow of the displays. Captain, we have a massive spatial distortion at bearing 270. It's huge. Energy readings are off the scale. Elena stood, her heart pounding. In 20 years of service, she had never heard that kind of fear in Park's voice. On screen, the main view screen flickered to life and Elena's breath caught in her throat. Space itself was tearing open, a swirling vortex of purple and gold light that shouldn't exist according to any physics she knew. The distortion stretched for kilometers, pulsing with energy that made their sensors scream warnings. "Get me a reading on that anomaly," Elena ordered, forcing her voice to stay calm. "And wake up Dr. Chen. He's going to want to see this." "Captain?" Park interrupted, his voice rising. "Something's coming through." The vortex exploded with brilliant light and a ship emerged. Not just any ship, a massive vessel that dwarfed anything in the human fleet. Elena squinted at the screen, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. The hull was familiar, the basic structure recognizable as human design, but it had been changed, expanded. The ship bristled with structures that hadn't been there in the original blueprints. "Run identification," Elena said quietly. The computer hummed, processing data. Then it displayed results that made Elena's blood run cold. Ship identified as UESS Prometheus. Colony vessel. Departed Earth orbit January 15, 2177. Status, lost with all hands. "That's impossible," Park whispered. "The Prometheus vanished 170 years ago." Elena stared at the massive vessel on the screen. The Prometheus had been one of humanity's greatest achievements, a colony ship carrying 50,000 people to a new world. It had disappeared into a wormhole that collapsed behind it. Everyone had assumed the ship was destroyed. There had been memorial services, monuments built, families had mourned for nearly 2 centuries. "Life signs?" Elena asked. "Affirmative, Captain. Reading multiple human life signs aboard. Thousands of them." The bridge fell silent. Elena could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. This wasn't possible. This couldn't be real. "Captain, I'm picking up an automated broadcast from the Prometheus," the communications officer reported. "Audio only. It's repeating on all frequencies." "Play it." Static crackled through the bridge speakers, then a voice emerged. It was distorted but unmistakably human. "This is the UESS Prometheus. We have returned. Humanity prevails. We have returned. Humanity prevails." The message repeated over and over like a ghost whispering from the past. "Try to establish direct communication," Elena ordered. "I want to talk to whoever is in command of that ship." Dr. Marcus Chen burst onto the bridge, his hair wild and his shirt buttoned wrong. "I came as fast as I could." "What's the emergency?" Elena pointed at the screen. "We found the Prometheus." Chen's eyes went wide. He stumbled forward, gripping the railing to steady himself. "That's not possible. The Prometheus is ancient history. It's been gone for 170 years. "I know." Elena turned to her communications officer. "Any response to our hails?" "Negative, Captain." "The ship isn't responding to direct communication. Just the automated message." Elena frowned. Something was wrong here. Very wrong. "What about their energy signature? What are we looking at?" Park pulled up the analysis on his screen, then shook his head in disbelief. "Captain, I've never seen readings like this. The Prometheus is generating more power than our entire fleet combined, and the gravitational readings, they're emitting waves that shouldn't be possible with any technology I know." "Human technology or alien technology?" Chen asked, moving closer to examine the data. "Either," Park replied. "This doesn't match anything in our databases. Not ours, not the Galactic Council's, not any of the species we've encountered." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Humanity had joined the Galactic Council 40 years ago, becoming part of a vast community of alien civilizations. It had been humbling to discover that humans were far from the most advanced species in the galaxy. The Council had rules, strict rules about what technology humans could develop. They said it was for safety, to prevent younger species from destroying themselves. But the Prometheus had left Earth before humanity met the Council. Before the rules, before the restrictions. "Send a priority alert to Earth Command," Elena ordered. "And notify the Council. They're going to want to know about this." "Already done, Captain," her XO reported. "Earth Command is scrambling the First Fleet. ETA 6 hours. And the Council. They're sending the Arbiters." Everyone on the bridge tensed. The Arbiters were the Council's enforcers, the ones who made sure younger species followed the rules. They were powerful, ancient, and they didn't tolerate violations. "How long until they arrive?" Elena asked. 12 hours, maybe less." Elena nodded slowly. 12 hours to figure out what happened to the Prometheus before the most powerful beings in the galaxy showed up to investigate. 12 hours to understand how a human ship had acquired technology that shouldn't exist. "Captain," Park's voice cut through her thoughts. "The Prometheus is launching something. A shuttlecraft. On the screen, a small vessel detached from the massive ship and began moving toward the Kepler. Helena's hand instinctively moved to her sidearm. Battle stations, she ordered. Raise shields. But do not fire unless fired upon. Those are still humans over there. The bridge lights shifted to red as the Kepler's defensive systems came online. Elena watched the shuttle approach, her mind racing. What would she find inside that shuttle? Who would emerge from a ship that had been lost for nearly 2 centuries? The shuttle docked smoothly with the Kepler's airlock. Elena gathered a security team and made her way to the docking bay, Chen right behind her. They stood behind portable shields as the airlock cycled, weapons ready but lowered. The inner door hissed open. Steam billowed out, and through the mist figures emerged. They wore uniforms that Elena recognized from history books, the old Earth fleet design from before the Council contact. But the people wearing those uniforms looked young, healthy, impossibly alive. A tall man with dark skin and calm eyes stepped forward. He carried no weapons. His hands were raised in a peaceful gesture. "Permission to come aboard, Captain," he said. His voice was steady, confident. "I'm Commander Isaiah Grant of the UESS Prometheus." Elena stared at him. According to the records, Commander Grant should have been dead for 170 years. But the man standing before her couldn't be more than 40 years old. "Permission granted," Elena said carefully. "Commander Grant, you're going to need to explain a lot of things. Starting with how you're still alive." Grant smiled, but there was something in his expression that made Elena uneasy. It wasn't threatening, it was knowing. Like he held secrets that would change everything. "Captain Vasquez," Grant said, "we need to talk, and I'm afraid the Galactic Council isn't going to like what we found out there. They're not going to like it at all." Behind Grant, more crew members emerged from the shuttle. They all looked the same. Young, healthy, and somehow different. Their eyes held a strange light, and they moved with a grace that seemed almost inhuman. Elena holstered her weapon but kept her hand near it. "Commander, you and your people are under quarantine until we figure out what happened to you. I hope you understand." "Completely," Grant replied. "We expected as much. But Captain, before your council friends arrive, there's something you need to see. Something aboard the Prometheus that will change everything humanity thinks it knows about the galaxy." Elena exchanged a glance with Chen. The scientist's face was pale, his expression torn between scientific curiosity and deep fear. "Take them to quarantine," Elena ordered her security team. She turned back to Grant. "We'll talk in 1 hour, Commander." "And you're going to tell me everything?" Grant nodded. As the security team led him and his crew away, he looked back over his shoulder. 1 hour, Captain. Then I'll show you why humanity's place in the galaxy just changed forever." Elena watched them go, her mind spinning with questions. The Prometheus had been gone for 170 years. But for these people, how much time had passed? Where had they been? And what had they found that gave them technology beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen? She had 1 hour to prepare for answers. 1 hour before everything changed. And she had a feeling that 1 hour wouldn't be nearly enough. The quarantine room was designed to be comfortable but secure. Commander Isaiah Grant sat calmly in the chair, his hands folded on the table. He looked relaxed, almost amused, as Captain Vasquez and Dr. Chen entered the room. Behind the clear barrier, armed guards watched every movement. "Your medical scans came back," Elena said, sliding a data pad across the table. "According to our equipment, you're biologically 38 years old. Your crew members range from 25 to 60, but the Prometheus disappeared 170 years ago." Grant nodded slowly. "For the galaxy, yes. 170 years have passed. For us?" He paused, meeting Elena's eyes. "Only 3 years." Chen leaned forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his caution. "Time dilation? You were traveling near light speed?" "Not exactly," Grant replied. He stood and walked to the window, gazing out at the stars. "The wormhole that took us didn't collapse. It pulled us through to somewhere else, a place that existed outside normal space-time." Elena crossed her arms. "Commander, I need you to be very clear with me. The Galactic Council will be here in less than 10 hours. They're going to want answers. They're going to want to know what happened to your ship and what technology you're using. The Arbiters don't like surprises." Grant turned back to face her. His expression became serious. "Captain, before the Arbiters arrive, you need to understand something. The Prometheus didn't just survive. We found something out there. Something that changes everything we thought we knew about the galaxy." "What did you find?" Chen asked, his hands trembling slightly. Grant walked back to the table and placed both palms flat on its surface. We found a station, ancient beyond measure. It was automated waiting. The technology inside that station predated the Galactic Council by millions of years, maybe tens of millions. A civilization that rose and fell before any current species even existed. Elena felt her heart skip a beat. Precursor technology? That's forbidden. Council law strictly prohibits. I know what Council law says, Grant interrupted gently. But Captain, the Council's laws are based on fear. Fear that a younger species might find something they did before, something they failed to understand. He pulled up a holographic display from a device on his wrist. Elena's eyes widened. That technology was far beyond anything humans currently possessed. Images appeared in the air, showing a massive structure floating in the void. It was beautiful and terrifying, all sharp angles and flowing curves pulsing with soft blue light. This is the station we found, Grant explained. It pulled us in with a gravity beam we couldn't resist. We thought we were going to die. But instead the station welcomed us. It opened itself to us. It showed us things. What things? Elena whispered. Grant waved his hand and the images changed. Now they showed vast halls filled with machines, corridors of light, chambers that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Knowledge, technology. The precursors left behind a database, instructions. They wanted someone to find it. They wanted to see if anyone would be worthy. Chen stood abruptly, his chair scraping across the floor. Worthy of what? Of advancing to the next level, Grant said simply. The precursors called it Phase 3 civilization development. Most species in the galaxy are Phase 2. The Council likes to keep it that way. They control who advances and who doesn't. But the precursors, they believed in choice, in potential. Elena felt a cold dread settling in her stomach. The Prometheus. The modifications we detected. You integrated this technology into your ship. We did more than that, Grant replied. He held up his hand and suddenly his skin seemed to shimmer. For a moment Elena could see through it, seeing patterns of light moving beneath the surface. Then it was solid again. Some of us chose to bond with the technology, to become part of it. The systems respond to our thoughts, our intentions. The ship isn't just a vessel anymore. It's an extension of our will. Chen's voice failed him. He tried again. That's impossible. That level of neural integration would require technology centuries beyond what we have, beyond what the Council has. The Council had this opportunity, Grant said quietly. Multiple Council species found precursor caches over the millennia. Every single one failed the tests. They were too greedy, too violent, too focused on domination. The technology destroyed them or rejected them. But you succeeded, Elena asked, hearing the skepticism in her own voice. Grant smiled sadly. We almost didn't. The first year was hell. We lost people. The technology tested us in ways we couldn't imagine. It created scenarios, moral dilemmas, situations that forced us to prove what we valued. Unity or division, knowledge or power, life or control. He walked back to the window, his reflection ghostly in the transparent material. We had children on the Prometheus, families. When the tests began, we had to decide what mattered most. And we chose each other. We chose cooperation over competition. We chose to protect the weak instead of sacrificing them for power. And the technology accepted you, Chen breathed, understanding dawning in his eyes. It did more than accept us, Grant said. It taught us. For 3 years we lived in that station, learning. The precursors left warnings throughout the database. They showed us the civilizations that had failed, species that tore themselves apart fighting over the knowledge, races that used the technology to conquer and destroy. We saw what happened to them all. Elena's mind raced. The implications were staggering. The Council won't allow this. You know that, don't you? They have laws against technology transfer. They'll demand you turn everything over to the Arbiters. I know, Grant said calmly. That's why I wanted to talk to you first, Captain. You're human. You understand what it means to be told you're not good enough, not advanced enough, not worthy enough. The Council has kept humanity on a leash for 40 years. They give us scraps of technology and call it progress. He turned to face her fully. The Prometheus came back to change that. We're not asking permission anymore. Before Elena could respond, alarms blared through the ship. Her communicator crackled to life. Captain, multiple ships dropping out of FTL. It's the Council fleet. The Arbiters are here early. Elena's blood ran cold. How many ships? 27 and counting, Captain. They're surrounding both us and the Prometheus. We're being hailed. Grant's expression didn't change. He'd expected this. Captain Vasquez, what happens next will determine humanity's future. You can side with the Council, follow their rules and hope they're merciful, or you can stand with us. You're asking me to commit treason against the Galactic Council, Elena said, her voice hard. I'm asking you to choose humanity's freedom over someone else's control. Elena stared at him, her mind torn. Everything she'd been taught said the Council was right. They were ancient, wise, experienced. They'd guided humanity through first contact, prevented wars, shared technology, but they'd also limited humanity's growth. Restricted research. Kept humans as junior partners in a galaxy where age determined worth. Captain, the Arbiters are demanding we lower shields and prepare for boarding. Her XO reported over the comm. They say the Prometheus must power down immediately and surrender all crew for questioning. Grant walked to the barrier separating them. They're scared, Captain. The Arbiters aren't here to investigate. They're here to contain us, because we represent something they can't control. Proof that their system is designed to keep species like us in our place. You don't know that, Elena protested. Don't I? Grant pressed his hand against the barrier. Check your databases, Captain. Look up how many times the Council has authorized a younger species to advance beyond their assigned tier. Look up how many times they've shared their most advanced technology. Look up what happened to the species that questioned their authority. Chen was already pulling up the records on his datapad. His face grew paler with each file he opened. Captain, he's right. In the Council's 12,000-year recorded history, they've only allowed 4 species to advance to Tier 2 status. 4 out of hundreds, and the 3 species that openly challenged Council decisions. He looked up, his eyes wide with horror. They're all gone. Listed as extinct due to various causes, Elena felt sick. She dedicated her life to the Council's mission. She'd believed in the greater galactic community, but the evidence was right there in the files she'd never bothered to question before. The Prometheus is powering up weapons. Park's voice crackled over the comm, panic clear in his tone. Captain, their energy signature is spiking. It's massive. Whatever they're doing, it's drawing more power than our entire fleet. Grant's eyes met Elena's through the barrier. We're not powering weapons, Captain. We're powering a demonstration. The Arbiters need to understand that humanity isn't helpless anymore, that we have the strength to choose our own path. You're going to start a war, Elena said, her voice barely above a whisper. No, Grant replied calmly. We're going to end one. A war that's been going on for millennia. A war against potential, against growth, against change. The Council has had its way for long enough. The lights on the Kepler flickered. Through the window, Elena saw the Prometheus beginning to glow, energy cascading across its hull in waves of brilliant light. Grant smiled, but there was steel in his expression. What happens next is up to the Council, Captain. They can talk or they can fight. But either way, humanity isn't backing down. We came B, the energy pulse from the Prometheus rolled across space like a wave on an invisible ocean. Captain Vasquez watched in horror as it washed over the Council fleet. One by one, every alien warship went dark. Their running lights died. Their engines shut down. Their weapon systems powered off completely. Only the human ships remained active, their systems untouched by whatever the Prometheus had done. Status report, Elena shouted, running onto the bridge with Grant right behind her. She'd ordered the guards to release him when the pulse hit. They had bigger problems now. All Council vessels are dead in space, Lieutenant Park reported, his voice shaking. Life support is still functioning, but everything else is offline. We're receiving emergency transmissions from multiple ships. They're demanding to know what we did. It wasn't us, Elena said, glancing at Grant. It was them. Grant stood calmly in the center of the bridge, looking at the view screen where dozens of disabled warships floated helplessly. The pulse was non-lethal. Every species aboard those ships is safe. Their life support will remain active, but their weapons and engines are temporarily disabled. Temporarily? Chen asked, staring at the commander. For how long? As long as necessary, Grant replied. Until they're willing to listen instead of threaten. Elena's communicator exploded with incoming calls. She recognized the signal. It was Ambassador Krell of the Arbiters. She accepted the call, and a holographic image appeared above the bridge's central console. Ambassador Krell was massive, even in miniature. The Arbiter stood 3 meters tall, its crystalline body reflecting light in sharp, angry flashes. Its voice was like rocks grinding together, translated by the universal interpreter into words Elena could understand. "What have you done?" Krell roared. "This is an act of war, an unprovoked attack on Council forces." Grant stepped forward before Elena could respond. "Ambassador Krell, I am Commander Isaiah Grant of the UESS Prometheus. What you just experienced was not an attack. It was a demonstration." "A demonstration?" Krell's crystalline body turned a deep, furious red. "You disabled 27 warships. You violated every law the Council has established. This aggression will not stand." "What aggression?" Grant asked, his voice calm and reasonable. "Did we destroy your ships? Did we harm your crews? Did we fire a single weapon? No, Ambassador. We proved a point. We showed that humanity now possesses defensive capabilities you cannot overcome." Another hologram appeared, a Vakor commander, its forearms gesturing wildly, its scaled face twisted in rage. "You dare challenge the Council? You are a Tier 1 species. You have no right to possess such technology." Grant turned to face the Vakor commander. "Who gave the Council the right to decide what we can and cannot possess? Who made you the rulers of technological progress?" "Tradition," Krell boomed. "Millions of years of order. The Council exists to prevent younger species from destroying themselves with technology they don't understand." "And how many species have you prevented from advancing?" Grant asked quietly. The question hung in the air like poison. How many civilizations have you kept under your control by claiming it was for their own good? The bridge fell silent. Even Elena felt the weight of that question. She'd never thought about it before, never questioned the Council's authority, but now, seeing their fleet disabled and helpless, seeing the fear and anger in the alien ambassadors' faces, she began to wonder. "The Prometheus spent 3 years studying precursor technology," Grant continued. "We learned things the Council never wanted anyone to know. We found records, Ambassador Krell. Records showing that your own species discovered a precursor cache 5,000 years ago. You tried to use it for conquest and it rejected you. It destroyed half your worlds before your people gave up." Krell's hologram flickered with fury. "Lies! Those records are sealed. Forbidden. Sealed by whom?" Grant pressed. "By the Arbiters? By the Council leadership? You've been hiding your failures for millennia, preventing other species from succeeding where you failed. The precursor technology tests those who find it. It judges them worthy or unworthy. Your species was found unworthy, Krell. You failed. And you've spent 5,000 years making sure no one else gets the chance to succeed." A new hologram appeared, and Elena's breath caught. It was a Sirani, one of the ancient species that had been Council members for over 8,000 years. The Sirani elder looked different from the others. There was no anger in its expression, only deep sadness. "Is this true, Krell?" the Sirani asked softly. "Did the Arbiters find precursor technology and fail?" Krell's crystalline body dimmed. For a long moment the Arbiter said nothing. Then quietly, "We did what was necessary to maintain order. The precursor technology is too dangerous. It must be controlled. Controlled by you," Grant said. "That's what this has always been about. Not safety, control. The Council was formed by species that either failed the precursor tests or never found them at all. And you've spent millions of years making sure no one else can threaten your power." "You understand nothing," Krell said. But there was less certainty in the Arbiter's voice now. "You are young, arrogant. You think finding this technology makes you special, but you will fail, just like all the others. The power will corrupt you. You will destroy yourselves." Grant shook his head. "That's where you're wrong, Ambassador. We won't fail. Do you know why? Because we chose unity over power. We chose to protect each other instead of dominating each other. For 3 years, the precursor technology tested us. It created impossible situations, forcing us to choose between survival and morality. And every time we chose morality." He walked closer to the holographic display, his voice growing stronger. 20% of our crew chose not to integrate with the systems. They remained fully human. We could have forced them. The technology gave us that power. But we didn't. We gave them a choice and we respected that choice. That's why the precursors accepted us. Elena found herself believing him. She'd seen the Prometheus crew. They moved differently, spoke differently, but they weren't monsters. They were still human, still capable of compassion. "The Council fleet is helpless right now," Grant continued. "We could destroy every ship here. We could take whatever we want. We could conquer Council space and no one could stop us. But we won't. Because we don't want conquest. We want freedom. Freedom to advance at our own pace. Freedom to make our own choices. Freedom from species who think age gives them the right to control everyone else. Pretty words, the Vakor commander snarled. But words change nothing. When we regain power, we will crush you. We will take your technology and destroy your species. That is the consequence of defying the Council. Grant smiled coldly. You just proved my point, Commander. You're not interested in peace or cooperation. You're interested in dominance. And that's exactly why the precursor technology rejected your kind. He turned to address all the holographic images at once. Here's what's going to happen. The Prometheus will share its knowledge freely with any species willing to approach it with respect. We'll teach the principles we learned. We'll help anyone who genuinely wants to advance. But we will not surrender our technology to the Council. We will not submit to your restrictions. Humanity is declaring independence from your control. This is madness. Krell roared. You'll start a war that will consume the galaxy. We're not starting anything, Grant replied calmly. We're ending something. Ending the idea that older means wiser. That age grants authority. That one group of species has the right to decide the fate of all others. The galaxy is big enough for everyone to advance at their own pace. The Council just needs to accept that. Elena stepped forward, her heart pounding. She knew what she was about to do would change her life forever. But Grant was right. She'd seen the evidence. The Council wasn't the benevolent guide she'd believed in. It was a control system designed to keep younger species beneath the older ones. Ambassador Krell, Elena said clearly. Captain Elena Vasquez of the UESS Kepler. I am formally requesting that the Council open peaceful negotiations with the Prometheus and its crew. Attacking them would be both foolish and wrong. Krell's hologram turned to face her, and Elena could feel the weight of the Arbiter's fury, even through the transmission. Captain Vasquez, you are a Council officer. You swore an oath to uphold Council law. I swore to protect humanity, Elena replied. And right now, that means protecting the Prometheus from Council aggression. They haven't attacked anyone. They've only defended themselves. If there's a crime here, it's the Council showing up with a battle fleet instead of a diplomatic mission. The Serani elder spoke again, its voice thoughtful. Perhaps the human captain is correct. We arrived with weapons charged and demands ready. We did not come to learn or understand. We came to contain and control. Whose side are you on, Elder Serani? The Vakor commander demanded. I am on the side of truth, the Serani replied. And the truth is that the Council has grown comfortable in its power. We've forgotten that once we too were young. We too faced species more advanced than ourselves. We too wanted the chance to prove ourselves. When did we become the very thing we once feared? Krellso? The shuttle bay of the Prometheus was unlike anything the alien ambassadors had ever seen. The wall seemed to shift and flow, responding to the presence of the visitors. Lights moved beneath the surface like living things. The air itself felt charged with energy. Ambassador Krell stood at the front of the group, its crystalline body dimmed to a cautious amber. Behind the Arbiter came representatives from 17 different Council species. Captain Vasquez and Dr. Chen had joined them, representing humanity's official interests. Armed guards from multiple species flanked the group, weapons ready but not raised. Commander Grant waited for them at the center of the bay, flanked by members of his crew. They all wore the old-style Earth Fleet uniforms, but there was something different about them. They stood too still, too perfectly. Their eyes reflected light in ways human eyes shouldn't. Welcome aboard the Prometheus, Grant said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast space without any visible amplification. Thank you for accepting our invitation. We did not accept, Krell said coldly. We are here under protest to investigate what you have done to this vessel and its crew. Grant smiled slightly. Of course, Ambassador. Please follow me. I promise you've never seen anything like what we're about to show you. He turned and walked toward a corridor. The walls parted before him, literally flowing aside to create an entrance. The ambassadors hesitated, then followed. They had little choice. Their ships were still disabled, and they needed answers. Elena walked near the back of the group, watching everything with wide eyes. The interior of the Prometheus was nothing like a normal human ship. The corridors were wide and curved, with walls that displayed moving images, starfields, nebulae, alien worlds. But these weren't recordings. She could feel them somehow, sense that they were real-time views from locations across the galaxy. How are you powering all this? Chen whispered beside her, his scientific mind struggling to process what he was seeing. The energy requirements should be impossible. Grant must have heard him despite the distance. We're using zero-point energy, Dr. Chen, extracting power directly from the quantum foam of space-time itself. The precursors developed the technology millions of years ago. It provides effectively unlimited power with zero waste. A murmur ran through the group of ambassadors. Zero-point energy was theoretical, something every species had tried and failed to harness. The energy was there, infinite and everywhere, but accessing it required technology that no one had been able to develop. They entered a massive chamber that made several ambassadors gasp in shock. It was a garden, impossible and beautiful. Trees grew toward a ceiling that showed real sky. Water flowed in streams that defied gravity, moving up and down walls. Flowers bloomed in colors that shouldn't exist. This garden requires no artificial gravity, Grant explained, running his hand along a tree trunk. The plants are grown in what we call bioreactive matrix fields. They exist partially in normal space and partially in quantum space. They respond to thought and emotion. Watch. He placed his hand on a rose bush. The flowers immediately bloomed, their petals opening to reveal centers that glowed with soft light. Several aliens stepped back in alarm. Don't be afraid, Grant said. The plants won't harm you. They're designed to respond to life, to nurture it. The precursors believed that any truly advanced technology should enhance life, not replace it. This is obscene, the Vakor commander growled. Mixing biology with quantum mechanics. It violates natural law, does it? Grant asked mildly. Or does it simply expand what we consider natural? The precursors saw no division between organic and mechanical, between thought and matter. They understood that consciousness itself is a quantum phenomenon. They learned to work with it instead of against it. He led them deeper into the ship. They passed crew members who moved with impossible grace, their bodies flowing like water as they performed tasks. In one room, a woman was repairing a complex machine simply by touching it, her hands glowing as the broken parts reassembled themselves. She's not using tools, Chen breathed. She's directly manipulating matter at the molecular level. Correct, Grant confirmed. Those who chose to integrate with the precursor systems gained abilities that seem like magic. But they're not magic. They're the result of understanding how consciousness interacts with quantum fields. The precursors discovered that thought itself can influence reality at the smallest scales. They learned to amplify and focus that influence. This is why you were found worthy? The Sirani elder asked, its ancient eyes studying Grant carefully. Because you can manipulate matter with your minds? No, Grant said, stopping to face the elder. We were found worthy because we chose not to use this power for dominance. Come, let me show you the heart of the ship, the place where everything changed. They descended deeper into the Prometheus, past levels that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Elena felt her head spinning as they walked through corridors that were somehow larger on the inside than the outside. Space itself had been folded and compressed in ways that made conventional physics weep. Finally, they reached a chamber at the ship's core. It was vast and circular, with a massive crystalline structure at its center. The crystal pulsed with light, and Elena could hear it. A sound like music, like voices, like the whisper of stars. This is the interface, Grant said quietly, the core of the precursor system. When we first found the station, this was inactive. But as we studied, as we learned, as we proved ourselves, it awakened. It's not just a computer or a database. It's something more, something alive in ways we're still trying to understand. He walked to the crystal and placed both hands against its surface. The light intensified, and suddenly the chamber filled with images. Holographic displays showed species after species, hundreds of civilizations throughout galactic history. Elena watched as each one discovered precursor technology and faced the tests. Most failed. She saw species tear themselves apart fighting over the knowledge. Civilizations that used the power to conquer and enslave. Races that let greed and ambition corrupt them. One by one, the precursor systems rejected them, and the species either destroyed themselves or were destroyed by their own creations. The precursors weren't fools, Grant said as the images played. They knew what power does to the unworthy. They built safeguards into every system. The technology itself judges those who use it. It tests for specific qualities: cooperation, compassion, restraint, wisdom. Fail any test and the systems shut down or actively work against you. A new image appeared, the Arbiters, 5,000 years ago. Elena watched as Krell's ancestors discovered a precursor cache. She saw them immediately try to weaponize it, try to use it to dominate other species. The precursor systems fought back, unleashing energy that devastated entire worlds before the Arbiters abandoned their efforts. Krell's crystalline body had turned deep purple, a color Elena had never seen in an Arbiter before. Shame. This is why the Council fears advancement, Grant continued. Not because younger species might harm themselves, because younger species might succeed where the elder species failed. The Council's laws aren't about safety. They're about maintaining power structures that benefit those who've already failed their tests. That's not true, the Vakor commander shouted. The Council exists to maintain order. Does it? Grant waved his hand and new images appeared. Look at your own history, Commander. 3,000 years ago, your species was exactly where humanity is now. Young, ambitious, eager to advance. The Council restricted your technology, kept you dependent. When you protested, they sent the Arbiters to enforce compliance. You've been a Council member for 1,500 years, but you've never been allowed to develop beyond Tier 2 technology. Why? Because the elder species don't want competition. The Vakor commander's scales flushed with anger, but the alien said nothing. The truth was there in the historical records, undeniable. The Serani elder spoke, its voice heavy with age. Show us what you learned, Commander Grant. Show us what the precursors wanted us to become. Grant nodded. He closed his eyes and the interface responded. The crystal at the chamber's center exploded with light and suddenly everyone in the room could feel it. A connection to something vast and ancient. They could sense the precursor systems throughout the ship, feel the consciousness that flowed through every circuit and conduit. The precursors didn't just create technology, Grant said softly. They created symbiosis, a partnership between organic life and artificial systems. When we bonded with this technology, we didn't lose our humanity. We expanded it. We can still choose, still feel, still love and fear and hope. But now we can also touch the quantum realm, manipulate energy and matter, exist partially outside normal space-time. He opened his eyes and they glowed with inner light. We became more without losing what we were. That's the lesson the precursors wanted to teach. Advancement isn't about replacing ourselves with machines. It's about enhancing what makes us who we are. But this power, Krell said quietly, it could still be used for destruction, for conquest. Yes, Grant agreed. And that's why we're offering to share it with everyone. Not to give the Council control, but to give every species the opportunity we had. Let them face the tests. Let the precursor systems judge them. Those who were. 3 months had passed since the Prometheus returned from the void. The galaxy had not been the same since. Captain Elena Vasquez, now Admiral Vasquez, stood on the observation deck of the new Earth Defense Command Station, watching construction drones swarm around the skeletal frames of 12 massive ships. Each vessel was being built using the principles the Prometheus had brought back, hybrid designs that blended human engineering with precursor technology. They're beautiful, aren't they? Dr. Chen said, joining her at the window. He looked different now, his eyes carrying that same inner light that Grant and his crew possessed. A month ago, Chen had chosen to undergo the integration process, becoming one of the first Earthborn humans to bond with the precursor systems. How does it feel? Helena asked quietly. Being connected to all that power? Chen smiled. Like being blind your whole life and suddenly seeing color. The universe is so much bigger than I imagined, Elena. So much more complex and beautiful and strange. I can sense quantum fields, feel the fabric of space-time, touch thoughts and emotions that exist in dimensions we don't even have names for. And you're still you? Elena asked. Still Marcus Chen, the man who gets excited about alien bacteria and makes terrible coffee? Still me, Chen assured her. The technology enhances. It doesn't replace. That's what makes it different from anything the Council has. Their technology works for them. This technology works with us. He gestured toward the ships under construction. Each of those vessels will carry a crew of 5,000, humans and aliens working together. The Serani have already committed 3,000 of their people to serve alongside us. Even the Arbiters are sending observers. Elena nodded. The last 3 months had seen unprecedented changes in galactic politics. The Galactic Council had fractured into factions, some supporting humanity's advancement, others opposing it fiercely. But the most significant change was that the debate was happening at all. For the first time in millennia, Younger species were demanding seats at the decision-making table. What about the Vakor? Elena asked. Last I heard, their military was demanding humanity be expelled from the council entirely. They were, Chen replied, until 2 of their colony worlds asked for human assistance with a plague that was killing thousands. The Prometheus spent a week in orbit and the crew used precursor medical technology to cure the disease. Now those colonies are protesting their own government's anti-human stance. Elena shook her head in amazement. Grant knew that would happen, didn't he? Probably, Chen said with a slight smile. The precursor systems taught him to think several steps ahead. They taught all of us. When you can sense probability waves and quantum possibilities, planning becomes a lot easier. A chime sounded and Elena's communicator lit up. She tapped it, and Commander Grant's face appeared in a holographic display. Admiral Vasquez, Grant said with a slight smile. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Nothing that can't wait, Elena replied. How's the mission going? Grant was aboard the Prometheus, which was currently en route to the 4th sector of Council space. They were on a diplomatic tour, visiting species that had expressed interest in learning about precursor technology. Better than expected, Grant said. We've just received formal applications from 7 species requesting access to the precursor tests. The interface is evaluating their submissions now. 7 species? Elena repeated. That's more than we expected. Word is spreading, Grant explained. The council can't suppress information the way they used to. Too many people want change. Too many species are tired of being told they're not ready to advance. He paused, his expression becoming serious. Elena, there's something else. We detected unusual quantum signatures in deep space. They match the pattern of precursor stations. We think there might be more out there waiting to be found. Elena felt her heart skip a beat. More stations? How many? Unknown, Grant admitted. But if the precursors left one for us to find, they likely left others. The galaxy might be full of opportunities we never knew existed, or full of dangers, Elena said quietly. If other species find precursor technology and fail the tests, that's a risk, Grant agreed. But it's a risk worth taking. The precursors believed in giving everyone a chance. We have to trust their judgment. If a species fails the tests, the systems will protect against misuse. But if they succeed, the galaxy becomes a better place for everyone. Elena nodded slowly. She'd come to trust Grant's judgment over the past 3 months. He'd proven himself wise and careful, never using the Prometheus's power carelessly. There's one more thing, Grant said. We found something in the precursor database. Records of 6 other human colony ships that disappeared around the same time we did. The Destiny, the Voyager, the Armstrong, the Bradbury, the Jung-He, and the Ibn Battuta. Elena's breath caught. 6 more ships? Are they still out there? We don't know, Grant said. But the precursor stations have a way of calling to those who are lost. If those ships found stations like we did, they might be making their way home. Or they might need help finding the way back. Then we'll find them, Elena said firmly. Every lost human deserves a chance to come home. Grant smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. The Prometheus will begin the search in 2 weeks. We're inviting council observers to join us. We want them to see that humanity doesn't hide its efforts or work in secret. Everything we do openly. The call ended and Elena turned back to the window. Below the station, Earth spun slowly, blue and green and beautiful. Humanity's homeworld, no longer confined by council restrictions, no longer limited by other species' fears. Chen stood beside her and together they watched the construction drones work. Do you think the other colony ships are out there? Chen asked. Do you think they found what we found? I hope so, Elena said. And if they didn't, we'll bring them home anyway. That's what the Prometheus proved, that humanity doesn't abandon its own. We were lost, but we found our way back. We'll do the same for anyone else who's still searching. She thought about Commander Grant and his crew, about what they'd endured and what they'd become. 3 years in an alien station, facing tests that had broken countless other civilizations. They could have used their newfound power to conquer, could have claimed Earth as their personal kingdom, could have become tyrants with abilities beyond imagining. Instead, they'd chosen to share, to teach, to lift others up instead of standing above them. That was humanity's real strength, Elena realized. Not the precursor technology or the quantum abilities or the ships that could teleport across space. Their strength was in the choice to remain human even when they'd become something more. Admiral, an aide said, approaching from behind. The Galactic Council has finished their vote. They're broadcasting the results now. Elena and Chen hurried to the command center where dozens of officers were gathered around view screens. The holographic image showed the council chamber, with representatives from hundreds of species assembled. Ambassador Krell stood at the central podium, the Arbiter's crystalline body a neutral gray. After 3 months of deliberation, Krell announced, the Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding humanity's status and the question of precursor technology access. Elena held her breath. By a vote of 417 to 293, Krell continued, humanity is hereby granted Tier 2 civilization status, effective immediately. Furthermore, access to precursor technology testing will be made available to all Council species that request it, under human supervision and guidance. Cheers erupted in the command center. Elena felt tears forming in her eyes. They'd done it. Against all odds, against millennia of tradition, they'd changed the galaxy. However, Krell added, and the room fell silent, this decision comes with a warning. The Council will be watching humanity closely. If the precursor technology is misused, if it leads to harm or conflict, these privileges will be revoked. Humanity's advancement is conditional on continued demonstration of wisdom and restraint. The transmission ended. Elena looked around at her crew, seeing hope and determination in their faces. It's not perfect, Chen said quietly. They're still watching us. Still ready to pull the plug if we make a mistake. Let them watch, Elena replied. We'll show them that humanity deserves this chance. We'll prove that advancement and wisdom aren't contradictions. She walked to the window one last time, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 6 colony ships might be searching for home. Somewhere, other precursor stations waited to be discovered. Somewhere, the future was being written, and humanity, once the youngest and weakest species in the Council, was now helping to write it. Elena thought back to the moment when the Prometheus first emerged from that impossible vortex, broadcasting its simple message, humanity prevails. We have returned. They had returned indeed, not as conquerors or victims, but as proof that potential mattered more than age, that courage and compassion could overcome any obstacle, that a species could be lost in the darkness and still find its way to the light. The Prometheus had started as a colony ship, carrying humans to a new home. It had become something far greater, a symbol of humanity's resilience, a catalyst for galactic change, a promise that no one who was lost would be forgotten.